Awesome. Okay, we should be live on YouTube. Sometimes the only thing that you can give the people that you love is punctuality.
Yeah.
And since punctuality is definitely not one of my strong points, I thought that tonight I would really make the effort. Okay, we should be live on YouTube. And there we go.
Playback going somewhere.
Yeah, that's mine. It always like
we should be live on
YouTube. It's very annoying. Even like when I have it paused, it still does that. Hi guys, I hope that you can see us okay. I'm sorry about the like lighting situation here yet again because it's early morning. I unfortunately can't do much about it. I've got Elizabeth with me again, which is really cool. And I think rather than a big monologue, 15-minute long monologue, we will just get straight into analysing the documents today. Okie dokie. Hi everyone, saying hello. So I will screen share and let's get straight into it. Oh, the response to our last stream has been really good, by the way. It's been really
awesome.
Oh, yeah, lots of people have sent me really nice messages about it and been really supportive. So thank you to all of those people.
Absolutely.
I did start to add some of the updates to the Decipher posts. So you'll see a few new entries there. I've actually still got it open. I'm still working on it. But slowly I will add in each of those points from the last session. Okay, interlink survey is where we're up to. So if you're new to the YouTube chat, basically if we see something interesting that we don't know enough about, we're going to ask you in the YouTube chat if you can help to find out information about that thing. Also, Blake is with us somewhere in the background. Blake, could you please add the Pirate Pad link in, because that's where things that we think we need to find out more about going forward, we put them into the Pirate Pad, and any of our viewers, anyone who sees the stream, can go and look at that Pirate Pad and can contribute to it. Okay. So interlink is some kind of, okay, the Interlink Management Office from the Information Management Directorate. So the user testing.
Yeah, unless there's something particularly significant about interlink that I'm not aware of, this just seems kind of like a, a typical inter-management type of email or document.
The Interlink Management Office suggests that this is an internal solution that is used within the company that they actually have a like a service provision center for.
Okay.
So in the past couple of sessions, we've talked about the proprietary software that the NSA has brought into and is utilizing. I believe they also have in-house solutions that they have built custom. Actually, you hear Bill Binney and others have talked about actually being the architect of some of those solutions and devising those solutions for NSA.
Interesting. Okay.
Interlink sounds like it is some kind of platform that links various agencies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or various, maybe the directorates within the NSA. Okay, so it's very much contextual. Okay, Insider's View of History, Resourceful NCOs at Goodfellow.
Interesting.
Okay, so we've had these stories before about like such and such talking about being posted to Canada, such and such talking about being posted to France or to Japan. So this one is about someone who works in or worked in Texas.
in a white powdery substance while trying to unclog the mulching machine. Interesting.
And the NSA did have staff in Saudi Arabia. There you go.
Yeah, that is interesting for sure.
So it's not just, well, I guess I was going to say it's not just a partnership, but in fact, all the major NSA partnerships, we talked last session about how the NSA deploys liaison officers to these various countries. I didn't know that the NSA was physically present in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either. That's very interesting.
It's the first time that I've actually heard of that. And obviously they're deployed to, war zones, and obviously they're deployed to all of the I want to say Five Eyes, but it's actually 40 Eyes. Very few people realize it's 40 Eyes is the Operation Iraqi Freedom Coalition of the Willing plus NATO countries.
Okay, that makes sense.
40 of them that are integrated into that network. So I would say with confidence that all 40 of those countries would have liaison officers or some type of American intelligence officers present in that country. The doormat was not suitable for a general.
This is filled with such weird, bizarre details. I don't know if they're talking in code in some way, but I mean, it's not classified, so it's just bizarre. Like he was talking about how somebody liked brown and like the walls brown or something. It was just.
Maybe they were expecting a red carpet for a general. I don't know what they're.
Yeah, I don't understand really, but.
The doormat was not suitable. Immediately they placed airmen at strategic points along the general's route to provide situational awareness and stole a new doormat oh god, and continued to move the mat throughout the general's visit. But you can't tell if they're taking the piss or if they're being serious.
It sounds like they are, but maybe they're just taking themselves so seriously it's coming out the other direction, sort of thing. But
having been deployed to Saudi Arabia, they do not think they've seen a better use of intelligence than moving the mat to the different places that seems like a shot at Saudi Arabia. If moving the doormat was the best use of intelligence.
Yeah, that does sound like that. I don't know if they were even thinking that far into what they were writing. It may have just been absolutely.
I do think they're trying to make people laugh. They say the information, because they're talking about information about where the general was going to physically walk around. That information is gleaned from the 4 deployed airmen. The information was timely, accurate, and actionable. The integration of SIG and human and imminent would make an air operations commander's eyes water. I think they're trying to be amusing.
Sarcastic.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting that NSA has postings in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm actually going to add that into our notes. Here and find the link to the raw document. If you guys want to do something really cool, could you please actually tell everybody that we are live? And I haven't actually put a tweet out yet to say that we are in fact live and doing this.
Yeah, I've tried to retweet just before we went live, but I'm not sure if they're going to click to it being the actual time. So.
Okay. Stupid me. I've lost my folder. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Okay, this seems more like it. Pacific SIG Development Conference. Hosted by Hawaii.
There are a few paragraphs there that are obviously labeled secret, so those catch my eye first. On the Five Eyes initiatives. Narcotics product lines? Yeah, international crime, and yeah.
I find it interesting that the Pacific Theatre is focused on Russia. I always thought of it as being more focused on Asia, but then I guess if it's being hosted in Hawaii, that side of it would definitely be in Russia.
For sure.
Nothing really there. Life in Alice is Maryland, isn't it? Oh, Pine Gap.
Interesting.
Oh, Alice Springs.
Yes.
Oh, this is extremely topical. Wow. Oh, is there any? No. Okay, it's just more. These are like really bland. These like story documents.
Yeah, what's the purpose of them?
Oh, I think it's supposed to be like advertising to people like, look, you can travel the world with the NSA. Like you can go here, there, everywhere.
That makes sense.
I would
Yeah,
love to
yeah, I
know.
see that effort.
What is that? Why have they redacted unclassified information? They would only do that if it contains personal names or contact numbers or details of someone who is not a public figure.
Yeah.
But interesting that they've redacted the entire sentence though.
That's true. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they could have been just maybe describing something like, you know, we we went with so-and-so company, maybe. I'm not sure if that would count as something I would want to redact, but.
It's unusual that it's an entire sentence that's been redacted. Usually it would be just like a name. It'd be like, we saw redacted at the redacted facility or whatever. Like,
yeah, that's weird. Especially, like you said, in a document like this, in a paragraph that's unclassified, that is very odd. And then it goes on to say, like, these tiny vets were taking rides on a camel and in a hot air balloon. I mean, it just is absolutely, as you're saying, it's like advertising.
I would love to know what that is, why they took the full sentence. This is the first time I've ever seen a redaction in one of these stories about being posted in different bases around the world.
Yeah.
And they holiday in New Zealand, how reassuring. Someone said when we first looked at the first few documents of these stories, they're like, it's the Spy's Lonely Planet guide.
Yes, exactly. That's what this sounds like, for sure.
So you can go to this restaurant and this event and visit this place and blah, 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 blah. 2 years at a time.
Yeah, and they very artfully avoid describing what the conditions are like inside of Pine Gap or what it's like to work there or any of that. So.
And you never get any negatives. You get all the like promotional stuff, but you never get any, oh, I'm really sick of this or that or the other thing. Okay, moving along. I think the fact that there are NSA personnel at Pine Gap is definitely already known because that was discussed at Moment of Truth in 2014. Yes. I hope there's more Pine Gap stuff in here though it's highly likely it would have been included in the Intercept reporting because they did do pieces on Pine Gap when Glenn Greenwald spoke in Australia like last month or maybe September.
Yeah, I remember there being a report relatively recently as well on this.
Yeah. There was a big Intercept report about it. Okay, without the actual report itself, that's not very useful.
Well, it's good to go through some of this fast. You know, as opposed, like yesterday, the good thing was that there was so much very interesting information, but we had to go through it so slowly. And in this, today, it's starting off in the opposite speed.
Yeah, we can move through this quickly.
This is odd again. This is one of these, I feel like it's sarcastic almost.
One way I've found to stay connected with the leadership is by reading this newsletter. Cute.
He was personally involved in ensuring that my day spent shadowing him was interesting and productive.
You just love to know what these people would write if they were able to write anonymously and outside of the NSA framework, because
Exactly.
I mean, they just can't, they're so constrained with what they're writing, knowing that their entire workforce is going to read it, and the management and the director who they were shadowing. So this is the top secret part.
Okay.
IET.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It's interesting that it's top secret, not secret.
What year was this? What's the date exactly on this document?
18th of May.
Okay, 2004.
What was happening in Haiti in August of 2004?
I'm not sure, because obviously the earthquake was much later.
Let's find out.
The cholera epidemic happened after that. So yeah, if somebody could look up what was happening with that increased tensions in Haiti in 2004, that would be interesting. Comparing it to his experiences in Hawaii. Interesting. Not that significant that I can see, but it's just something to note, I guess.
The area of responsibility of the century. Obama, the famous Obama speech where, what did he call? I mean, when did Obama come in? 2008, and he assigned a whole ton more military resources and investment in dollar terms into the Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm trying to remember the name of the strategy. It's eluded me, even though it's something that I know really well. There's a specific, the pivot.
I hate that when that happens.
The
Yeah.
pivot in Asia. Interesting that 4 years prior to, maybe 5 years prior to that occurring, the NSA is already calling the Pacific area of responsibility the area of responsibility of this century.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it means that they're thinking long term, but you don't know what exactly they're thinking about it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll get there. I'm going to put that down because I have the gut feeling that that is going to be significant and useful.
Yeah, I've seen a few other documents pop up in WikiLeaks with that type of naming, like of the century, what are we going to do this next century, that type of thing. But I don't think it's related too much to the NSA. So
it's usually in the context of China. And in one of the first live streams that I did analyzing these documents, it listed the strategic threats to the NSA as they saw it. And the first threat was, surprisingly, and I wrote up a piece about this, they said that the number one most significant threat was the European, the strength of the economic strength of the European Union.
Interesting.
And the second one was China.
Yeah, well, that I could understand. Yeah, that's very interesting that they thought the EU was more of a threat than China. Huh, that's never occurred to me, so interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It reinforced an article that I'd written called about Europe. I linked to it in that same stream, and it was an old article I did on Conscious Spin. The Agenda to Destabilize Europe, it's called, if you want to Google it.
Okay.
And in that article, I had posited that I proved that the powers that be knew before they invaded Libya that the net effect would be to create a migrant crisis.
Okay. Yeah.
Africa. They'd been explicitly warned on the UN floor, the UN Security Council floor. There's recorded speeches where Gaddafi is actually telling them, if you destabilize this country, there will be a huge, massive wave of African migrants and refugees that will engulf Europe. So it was known ahead of time that that would be the net effect of destabilizing Libya, but they went ahead and did it anyway. And in my article, I posited that the reason that that was palpable, or the reason that that was acceptable to them to do, and that they went ahead and knowingly did that, was because they were deliberately attempting to undermine what was the biggest rival economy to the United States, which was Europe. So then when I found the NSA strategy document that clearly stated the number one threat is the economic strength of the European Union, it was like a click moment. It was, that's it. There's the proof in their own words, in their own documents. The competition from the European Union was sufficient for them to create this massive human crisis.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, it's just criminal that they can get away with such a thing. I mean,
yeah, no, it's horrifying. It's absolutely mind-numbingly horrifying. Like it's so it does get to that point where it's so huge that it's very difficult to comprehend the depth of how evil it is. So,
and this is why, and like, sorry, I know like it's bad form to talk badly about people, but this is why Corin Dan, who's one example, is a major political news editor in New Zealand, one of the biggest media platforms in New Zealand, and he's tweeting about who sat next to who at dinner and who gave who a bottle of wine. And in the meantime, you know, the TPPA is getting signed. In the meantime, we are analysing documents that prove that the refugee crisis was knowingly manufactured. Just these
absolutely
unanimous issues. And these guys are just covering junk, like total junk.
Yeah, no, that's the pattern you see all over the world, especially in American press too. You know, you'll have major news outlets just covering puppy videos or something to avoid talking about anything important. So when they're even, and then, you know, when there is an issue they can't avoid reporting, then a lot of times they're just absolutely wrong or misconstrue it. So yeah, it's frustrating for sure. Yeah, I'd like to keep that mention of Haiti and add it to the notes. I know it's not really, that mention itself isn't too
good. By all means, add it to the pirate page. It'll be really cool.
I will after we've finished streaming, because Haiti is just so interesting, and so it's been so brutalized by all of the different various disasters, but also, you know, aid groups coming in and basically exploiting the aftermath of these disasters. And so it's a really important area.
That exactly what you just said then about how they exploit the aftermath of the disasters. Jenny Lynn, who's an awesome supporter of us, has just said that there was a big flood in Haiti in 2004.
Okay.
And if you look back to that document, they said that there was an issue management team or something, crisis management team. And you think to yourself, are they really that concerned about a flood being somewhere? And then, but you've just given us the true agenda, which is to exploit the aftermath of the disaster.
Yeah, and it's a lot of different, I mean, the UN has been just absolutely horrific there. And then you have other actual like private aid groups that go in and are also very, very harmful. And then you have the Clinton Foundation and some joining up with some other groups that basically introduce stuff like microfinancing and that type of like small scale debt, that instead of having aid, you have actual literal exploitation of the poorest and most devastated people on the planet, you know, at that time. And it's appalling when you actually look into those details. So.
And to them, it like makes it like all perfect, you know, it's all okay because it's like, what was it, Global Economic Security Day, they called their event about, you know, merging the US economic interests and the intelligence agencies. It's defending the economic interests of America by causing tens of thousands of people to die in the Mediterranean Ocean and tens of thousands of children to be sex trafficked across Europe, and millions of people to end up in refugee camps, and millions more people to flood into Europe and destabilize all the European nations. It's okay because we're defending our economic interests.
Exactly.
This is the thinking to incredible.
Yeah, it's a completely different
incredible
thinking than most people. And then when it's presented as aid, like something like microfinancing or re-in financing, I believe it's called, it's presented almost as aid. It's kind of sort of advertised, and if you go to the websites that are operating these little microfinancing operations, that they look a lot like an aid site, but actually they are just making profit off of these disasters. So anyway, that's a rabbit hole I could go into, and I don't want to take up too much time, but
it's all right. I'll just quickly put a tweet out and tell people. Come on, Zoom, get rid of your floating menus. Are so annoying. Oh, thank you. Thank you to the people who are tweeting out that we're live. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this looks like it's going to get a lot more interesting a lot faster.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear what people have to say about these issues and anything that they want to look up that they see that we're looking at, or any questions. We'd love to just kind of collaborate with people, I think, so.
No, this is all labeled top secret.
Interesting.
Signals Intelligence Directorate, which is NSA, and the DIA department. Oh no, it's not. I was going to say Department of Internal Affairs, but it's not.
The acronyms, they end up just mixing sometimes.
Come on, guys, tell me what's the DIA, since it's just, I mean, I know it's the core intelligence agency that brings all of the intelligence from all the other agencies together. It was a post 9/11 agency that was set up from memory. With that specific intention that it would be responsible, and I believe it reports directly to the president.
Okay.
Anyways, moving along. 2 NSA Russia analysts
That's interesting.
Are collaborating closely with an analytic counterpart in DIA's Joint Warfare Support Office, bearing in mind that this is 2004.
Yes.
May 2004. The Foreign Denial and Deception Division. Denial and deception is what the JTRIG revelations were about. These are the people whose job it is to hack stuff and pretend that they are Russia. I'll give you a real world example. When we were in the Occupy movement and we had our @OccupyAuckland Twitter account, our Twitter account was hacked. All of our tweet history was deleted, and our timeline was filled with Russian Cyrillic characters, tweets in Cyrillic.
Of course.
Now, what is the chance that Russia thought to themselves, hey, we want to disrupt Occupy Auckland in New Zealand, which is a Five Eyes country? I would say pretty much 0.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those instances we have to go, who's benefiting,
Exactly, who's benefiting. And we know at that time that all the FBI and through the fusion centers, the United States intelligence agencies were attacking the infrastructure of the occupations. So that is an example of denial and deception, where they try to leave footprints or fingerprints to lead you to believe that it was someone other than them that did it. Right, they collaborated closely to identify critical lead information on Russian underground facilities that is owned. Oh, this was reported on by the Intercept. This is where some woman.
Well, it is important, so I can see why they would.
This is where some woman in the NSA was reading about Russian underground nuclear bomb facilities on the open internet and finding finding information that they didn't have in the agency. As they comb newspapers, government decrees, and obscure websites for information on the targets. And they had to make this top secret, not top secret that they're combing newspapers for open source intelligence, but that they, in fact, are running denial and deception ops. So I'm sure that every intelligence agency would know and expect that they were doing that.
Absolutely. And it reminds me a little bit of what I think Assange pointed out a little while ago, I think it was a few weeks ago, that there's a huge problem with this type of thing where you have, if there's misinformation in a newspaper article or on a website, and then it's taken in as intelligence, you don't know, it gets all confused about what's actually legitimate intelligence or not. So that can be a big issue. But
they have an entire working group dedicated to Yamato Mountain, Russia's southern Ural Mountains.
interesting.
Deeply buried facility. So, I mean, Stuxnet, I would assume, would be like a really good example there too, where of the denial and deception aspect and the leaving different fingerprints, even though eventually it got tracked back to its actual source.
Yeah.
And here we go, North Korea. This was also covered in the Intercept. Should I skip the documents that were covered in the Intercept? Being that...
Yeah, I think it might be better because, I mean, we're trying to focus on the stuff that hasn't been covered, you know?
The Russia stuff and this North Korea stuff was definitely in their reporting. So just for those of you who are watching, the link in the YouTube channel to the Decipher You article contains all the findings that we've made so far in this series. And all of those findings in that article are things that were not picked up on by other or reported by other journalists.
Yeah, that's the focus, is to look at things that have not been publicized. So.
And this is someone writing something about the Alice Springs stuff. So they're writing back and saying, yes, it was great. Okay. Interview with an NSA employee who worked in China and Korea. Or no, I'm sorry, the production manager for China and Korea. They work in South Korea, many NSA employees, but this person is responsible for the production of intelligence. So sure enough, in February 1980, height of the Cold War, they had a huge hiring surge against Russia. Worked the Soviet civil targets.
Ooh, what was that? It said, what's the biggest change in the agency you've seen in your career? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the classification is interesting given that it's like 37 years later.
Yeah. Oh, well, obviously technology. I mean.
Look, she was an economics and finance major with some Russian language capability. from all the discussion we've had about economics and finance in the context of the NSA and these documents, you can see why actually they'd be very interested in an economics major who spoke Russian.
That's very true. Very good point.
We wrote our reports on the single typewriter in the branch. Wow. Yeah, this is see, like in many businesses, this would be like seriously frowned upon.
Yeah.
We were thrown to the same office and we got married. But Elizabeth, I'm not sure if you saw in one of the previous articles and from the second batch of documents, I think it is, they actually openly discuss how the NSA likes you to not only marry NSA employees, but also to have your children enroll. And they talk about having like 3 generations. There's people are like, yeah, my husband or wife, my 3 kids, and my cousin and my uncle and my grandfather all worked at NSA. Like
Wow.
it's super incestuous. Like they really like literally keep it in the family.
That is incredible. And I did notice that when we looked at that Alice Springs document, I was just thinking a little bit about that whole situation. It was the first time I'd noticed that. So
And she says, I told my husband to apply for a posting there,
yeah.
which suggests that both of them are at the agency.
Yes.
China, how can Korea be a designated hard target? Surely she means North Korea. But they
It's
don't.
interesting that she doesn't specify.
Yeah, they don't specify it as North Korea. They keep saying Korea, Korea, Korea all the way through.
That's very odd. I mean, in a document like this, you would think that they would specify which one they meant.
Interesting. I wonder what specifically hard target means. Menu fail again. Blake or anyone who has access, did someone put in the link to the pirate page somewhere? Defense Intelligence Agency is DIA. Thank you very much. But DIA is supposed to bring, I believe the head of the DIA is responsible for bringing together all of the intelligence agencies into one briefing.
Yes, that makes sense.
Blake, can you please find and link the, actually, hang on, I'm sure I bookmarked it, didn't I, in the last session? Yeah, here we go. Oh, interesting. Interesting, like now it's not showing us as being live.
Yeah, I had that happen yesterday. Actually, one of them showed the video, like the playback of it, and then the other one didn't show anything, and it said waiting. But this is after the it should have been available as a playback video. So
Okay, back to the document.
China and Korea missions again. I understand China. Korea is a little bit more surprising for sure.
It makes you wonder if, because of North Korea being such a severe target, a friendly government remaining in South Korea is obviously like of critical importance to them. Maybe that actually makes the South Korean leadership a huge target. Because I mean, this is in the context, we've got to remember, a hard target is in the context of SIGINT.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're like military targets, or that they, but that they're a SIGINT target, which means that there are customers, which are other agencies or other various interests groups who are literally ordering surveillance, that perhaps they, and maybe in the context of the UN stuff particularly, they would be interested in knowing what's going on in the South Korean leadership.
For sure, that makes sense.
Okay, I don't think there's much we can do with that one for now. A hard target is an unattractive target due to the difficulty involved in getting to them.
Interesting.
No, Paul, I didn't say that DIA is in charge of CIA, but definitely they are. They have a like daily presidential briefing where they take like the news of the day from various agencies and they all get compiled, and that's a post 9/11 thing, like a post Patriot Act thing. Okay, next talk. Weapons in Space introduces new website. I'm pretty sure Indigenous people would be highly offended by that term being used in that context.
The first thing that I noticed was that phrasing.
Oh, okay. So Interlink may in fact be where they house all of the applications that they're using. So they say the weapons systems designated tool is also available on Interlink under the NSA databases and tools. So Interlink obviously is like, think of it like a big folder with all the applications in it.
Yeah.
Relate, and various subfolders that relate. Okay, that makes more sense. So Interlink isn't just like a piece of software, but in fact houses them, or is the point of entry for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It also explains why they have a major management office and et cetera, et cetera.
Definitely. It makes sense about as to why they would need to make sure that their employees are able to use it, and that they would need kind of a user review, like the earlier document what seemed to be.
Yeah. The Iranian hostages stuff was also covered. It was also covered by the Intercept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to be emphasizing productivity. Talks about developing new regional sites. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of details that jump out as particularly noteworthy here, but I may be missing something. So this is another. This is like that early document. I enjoy my day shadowing so and so.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think there's much in there either. Headed for Baghdad, and we are still in May. Yep. That's strange.
Okay. There's the UN again.
Look at this sentence. Mark was asked to volunteer, but he describes this as a legitimate request, i.e. one that he could accept or decline. So you're asked to volunteer and it's you don't get to say yes or no or another.
Yeah, that's very bizarre.
It seems strange that that was added in there. Who wrote this? Author unknown. And again, like, his wife's name can't be that long. Aha, unless it is a title at the NSA and a name.
That would make sense. Yeah, it would.
That would make sense. Negroponte. That's an evil name.
Yeah.
Evil, evil, evil. He wasn't, I'm sure he's the guy who was involved in the Latin American death squads and stuff like that before he was shifted into Iraq, and then all of the Shia death squads and whatever it was, Sunni death squads. I think both probably. What? He'll work from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, 7 days a week.
It depends. I guess it depends on what they consider working, like what he's going to be doing. Is it if the just describe what exactly the person is going to be doing? I mean, I see something about vaccinations and the deployment taking more than a month, but I don't see a description of exactly what he's going to be doing for a lot of hours a day.
I wonder why they have such a short rotation when the deployments at the lower ranks are much longer.
Yeah, I have a helicopter flying over if the sound messes up a little bit. Okay, he will share a trailer with 3 other Americans, blah, blah, blah. Work from about, and then it talks about the hours.
He is specifically supplying SIGINT support to Ambassador Negroponte.
Well, if they are actually working that many hours, then that makes sense about them having a much shorter rotation. I mean, it will be very difficult to keep that up for any length of time.
16 hours a day. 16 hours a day. I mean, I know a few people crazy enough to do it. I certainly have at various points, but I don't. And that, especially in the context of the overtime and stuff, well, maybe they don't consider it overtime if that's the contracted hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the US-UN reference is due to the fact that we're now in the part where PAL has successfully pushed through the resolution. The UN is now going to be responsible. They're saying that the power is being transferred to the interim Iraqi government, et cetera, et cetera. So it's now becoming a UN show or a US-UN show rather than just the US.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of the bureaucratical type of interaction. So.
Okay.
Interesting.
Groundbreaking principles of agreement signed by directors of NSA and GCHQ in 2002, December 2002. That is post-Afghanistan, pre-Iraq invasion. I wonder what's in their principles of agreement. That would be very interesting to know.
Definitely.
Living the vision of transformation 2.0. Okay, this is extra fascinating. So like one of the first, I think it was in the first batch, they were talking about transformation 2.0, which in this context must have been post 2001, must have been post 9/11. This is their idea to transform the agencies.
Okay.
So the implication here is that that transformation wasn't just to transform the NSA in the United States, but also to transform the foreign partnerships, and in particular with the UK, we can see from this. The most interesting thing there to me is this. And that's because there is something called the UK-USA Agreement, which is the founding document that established the Five Eyes. It took 65 years, I believe, for that document, the existence of that document to become known. It was a secret agreement between the countries, and it was completely under the radar for decades and decades and decades.
Absolutely.
Nikki Hager's Secret Power, I think, is talks about this quite a bit as one of the premises, and it's something that he's been studying for his entire journalistic career. This principles of agreement, a groundbreaking principles of agreement, sounds suspiciously like there has been something that is either complementary to or we should, I mean, it's worth looking up. I've referenced it many times before in my articles, but if you don't know what it is actually worth checking out the Wikipedia page for the US-UK agreement. Where is it? Oh, maybe it's UK USA, I think. Yeah, there we go. Multilateral agreement for cooperation in signals intelligence between Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The Alliance of Intel Operations, also known as Five Eyes. Emerging from an informal agreement related to the 1941 Atlantic Charter, blah, 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 officially enacted in March 1946.
Special relationship. I always love that phrase. Sorry.
Other countries known as third parties. I want to say there's, I think, 9 eyes and 12 eyes, and that includes those countries. The Prime Minister of Australia did not know that the agreement existed for 27 years. Can you imagine that? Like, do we need any further proof that the militaries run the world?
Exactly. If you were writing an article specifically on the deep state, that would be just absolute proof of the problem.
While we are all sitting here going, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, does Donald Trump even know that the NSA and the GCHQ signed a groundbreaking principles of agreement in 2004?
I very much doubt
probably
it.
God knows what since. This is the proof that the militaries run the planet.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to include with whatever we write or keep records of, for sure, because I mean, and legacy press more and more is discussing the deep state as a real force and an actual, that's totally just, it's a fact of reality now. And I think that it's almost being normalized. Like, I think emphasizing the danger of that is really important, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
I just sit here shaking my head, not at what you're saying, but shaking my head.
Yeah.
At this like changes everything. It changes everything. We think we live in democracies because we get one vote every 3 or 4 years for some guy that won't even know what the agreement is that's been signed between the most powerful agencies in the country.
Yeah.
And like, how much time have we just spent talking about Clinton versus Trump, Clinton versus Trump, Clinton versus Trump, Clinton? Like, how much time? Like, how much as a percentage of the airways of the political narrative of the everything? And like, did we discuss the fact that, you know, a prime minister of a country didn't know about an agreement having been signed for 27 years?
Exactly.
I don't know how else to put it than the military rules the world. I mean, that's just like abundantly obvious to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I guess I'm saying that is known now, but and this is proof of it, but I think that it's being totally normalized. Like, it's just not a problem. Like, it's not as dangerous as it sounds, is the way it's being presented. But obviously it obviously is. It's a huge issue. So.
Oh God, where are we?
That's why when we wrote about like Jeff Bezos and Amazon, I thought it was so chilling to see people in the establishment media actually calling for Jeff Bezos to become the CIA director.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that type of intermeshing or incestuousness, to use your word from before, it's just absolutely horrific.
Was it General Mattis, I believe, who you saw Jeff Bezos giving a tour of Amazon headquarters like recently?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I have not looked that one up. If somebody can look it up, that'd be great.
I'm pretty sure it was Mattis. Okay. Groundbreaking principles of agreement, and also I should add in there about translation. Yeah, this. So it definitely ties into stuff I've written about prior.
Yeah, and speaking of how we waste time on Donald Trump, I think it was really interesting when you saw the inauguration about to happen. You had all these articles come out in mainline news that were like something along the lines of the deep state's war against Donald Trump. And so that was just really openly stated at the time, just the fact that the deep state exists, you know?
I trust very little that I see in the media.
No, absolutely. No, my point is that they were recognizing that they were describing the deep state as a real legitimate entity that had a political objective. And I thought that recognition, regardless of the which way it went or whether that was true, the fact that they were recognizing the influence of the deep state was really interesting to me. Like and again, normalizing it like that's not dangerous or like that's just fine and it's just the way it is.
So I don't trust what I see or hear or read in the media at all.
Absolutely, yeah.
For very, very good reason, obviously. However, once information is circulated widely enough outside of the media sphere, there becomes a point at which it filters through. It has to, because they lose too much credibility from failing to acknowledge it. So there's always a break point. There's always a break point. I mean, we saw this with TPPA, no way in New Zealand. You know, we fought that battle for years before we got to the major networks having to cover it every day. There's countless other examples of that as well with other issues and other movements. You have to push them and push them and push them. I think it was like 8 months of full-time pushing the GCSB movement before we had the major news networks having to admit, hey, this exists. Once enough number of people are aware, once the information dam has been broken out in enough other places, that's a really good analogy. It's like there's a dam and every time someone publishes about it or talks about it, it's like one little hole pops in the dam. And then once the dam is streaming with thousands of holes, then the mainstream media goes, crap, we're going to have to acknowledge it. And then the dam breaks and the flood comes. And I think that's what you're talking about, is that them acknowledge, people have been talking about the existence of a deep state since Eisenhower.
Absolutely.
But now they are forced to admit that it exists and to acknowledge it. It is huge. It is huge, and no one knows what's next. Really, no one knows what's next in terms of, you know, once the media does acknowledge it and all the public become aware, what is next? Will change follow finally?
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, National Intelligence Community Council, National Intelligence Council 2020. Okay, bearing in mind we're in May 2004. So they're now projecting 16 years in advance. The National Intelligence Council 2020 project is currently, oh God, and now look, they're going to be able to go in 2020 and look back at this and actually measure it. They're going to have metrics, forecast versus actuality. Although it makes me wonder how much their projections, how much they end up bringing them to life themselves.
And can you imagine now, like compared to 2004, can you imagine the state of like artificial intelligence in helping them run these scenarios for the future? And it's mind-boggling to think about what they could even possibly do at this point. But, and I'm looking at in that document, the drivers they're talking about, and they're what you expect from what I'm seeing. But I'm interested to see what they actually think those drivers would lead to.
We have so many cool people in our chat.
Absolutely.
Right, where are we? Back to the document. The National Intelligence Council's 2020 project is currently engaging experts worldwide in designing plausible scenarios for the year 2020. So their projections are, and this will come back to the academic sphere, but also to the corporate, I'm sure.
Yeah, so the economy and globalization, international governance.
Look, they already had a 2015 project that identified 7 key drivers. These drivers are demographics, natural resources, they're resource obsessed, and the environment, science and technology, global economy and globalization, national and international governments, future conflict, and the role of the US.
I think the phrase international governance there is really interesting.
I think that entire paragraph is
Yeah.
newsworthy.
Oh, absolutely. A new driver has been added for the 2020 study,
wow.
social identity.
Wow. That suggests that they've foreseen, which they already would have, because remember 2004 was the year of Facebook.
Yeah.
I
But,
believe
mean,
2004 was the first implementation of Facebook.
Do you think that they had some idea of, how huge a change that would be?
Facebook was partially funded by the CIA investment. I'm
I
not sure if I think it might have been 2005 they did the big heavy investment in it, but 2004 they already foresaw that people would have I want to say glass mask, but that's slightly different from a glass mask. They foresaw that people online digital identity, social identity.
Yeah.
Social identity. Maybe it's not specifically online.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they meant online or through something like Facebook, or if they had any idea how much that would take off. Like, I understand that they helped fund it, but I don't know if they were able to foresee how successful that would be and how much of a change it would make. I don't know. They could have, but
I'm sticking that whole paragraph.
Yeah, the whole thing is really, really interesting.
And look, once again, there's a famous quote by Snowden where he's like, it's not about security and terrorism, it's about economics and control, social control.
Yeah.
We're not just finding one document where spying is being used for economic gain. We're finding that, or one project, or one division, or one association, we are finding that it is the core driver behind the spying.
Absolutely.
It is almost the central objective. I'd go so far as to say it's the central, actually, I would go so far as to say it is the central objective. Because if you think about it, the diplomatic, all of the different facets of the spying all come back to that root cause of global supremacy for economic purposes.
Yes.
The global supremacy isn't actually ideological.
Yeah.
It isn't actually about democracy, for example. It isn't that they want the whole world to be in a functioning democracy. It isn't that for any ideological reason. It is purely economic control.
Self-interest, for sure.
Purely economic control. Supremacy, supremacy is a better word. Incredible.
Yeah, and that's why that phrase international governance really strikes me, because it's not just about controlling the US itself, or it's or not just having the Five Eyes type agreements with other countries, but actual governance internationally. So yeah, it just, to me, we all know that type of intention is there, but to see it written in these phrases is really striking.
The difference between how the spying is sold to us in the media and by our politicians, from what we are reading in these documents, you could drive 1,000 trucks through.
Yeah, absolutely.
When do you ever turn on your TV and have CNN news anchor tell you, we are sending more troops to West Africa because we want to get their oil, their gas, and their uranium?
Yeah, the only time.
When do you ever turn on CNN and have a host tell you, oh, the GCHQ and the NSA have signed a groundbreaking new agreement that maybe the Prime Minister or President doesn't even know about because they aren't even invited to be party to these agreements. In fact, the Australian Prime Minister didn't know that one had been signed by the Australian military for 27 years. Is that going to be on the Morning Joe in the morning?
Not so much. Not so much.
Are they going to tell the 30 million viewers that?
No, they're more likely to have, I mean, on morning shows, more, you know, the puppy videos, the cat videos, and something from Hollywood is usually what I would expect. But
interesting. Why is this document not in here? Oh, it is. It's here. Okay. Incredible.
Yeah, really.
So spying is for economic purposes and the military rules the world. If you wanted to sum up this entire series, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Or better put, this is all proof that spying is for economic purposes and the military rules the world, even well above and beyond. And you see, you know, they say all the time, Trump is surrounding himself with generals. Mm-hmm. Is Trump surrounding himself with generals, or are the generals surrounding Trump?
Exactly. That's what I see as well, for sure. And you know, and even some people who are in the conservative or like pro-Trump group of thinking, a lot of them do not like those generals either. So
of course, because most of them followed him believing that there wouldn't be war, and now there's a bunch of war hawks in the fray. And getting enhanced powers to do this and enhanced powers to do that, and so on and so forth. Okay, back to this document. I'm sure there's something else in here too. That.
Yeah, I want to see what they think the drivers are going to lead to if they have that in this document.
Okay, Toffler Associates. Who is Toffler Associates?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a question for you all about rare earth and minerals that you're mentioning in the comments. Am I correct in saying that that rare earth is not actually rare? It's pretty much everywhere, but that places like China are the ones that are willing to put the horrific chemicals and process to go through that in order to produce them? Is that correct? Sorry, random side note question.
I would ask that in the YouTube chat of the awesome people researching, because to be honest with you, I have no clue. Toffler Associates. Did you read this?
Monetary prizes, yeah.
They wanted their staff members to write plausible scenarios for 2020 that don't include classified information.
And again, you have intelligence and academic communities.
These guys are so deeply embedded in everything. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I wonder how many students would go to a conference with that type of information, and if they would even realize they were listening to something cooked up by the NSA. I mean, I don't know.
Or do you think that students entering an essay into the International Affairs Institute essay competition
would realize,
will understand that the National Security Intelligence Council will be reading that essay and basing strategic NSA decision-making, potentially basing NSA strategic, depending on the contents of the essay, basing strategic policy making off what some student wrote in an essay for the International Affairs Institute. And if you think about what they would be paying academics, like up here, wherever they said that they were engaging experts worldwide, imagine how much they have to pay the experts they engage worldwide versus how much they have to pay the student that writes an essay for the International Affairs Institute essay contest.
Exactly. That's a really, really important point.
Okay, I'd like to know if the International Affairs Institute is part of the NSA. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like a think tank.
Yeah, and I've been really concerned about the role of these NGOs and think tanks because, and this is really obvious, we can't FOIA them. We can't hold them accountable. You can at least try to get information from your government about federal agencies or intelligence agencies, but you can't look at a private or a charity organization. It just doesn't. And so having them outsource their work to those groups is really concerning. And whether it's in academia or whether it's paramilitary groups or whatever, or just working with aid groups, it really is disturbing when you understand how that works. So yeah, and thank you for sharing, everybody that's sharing. That's really awesome to see.
This definitely needs to be included. God, this whole document is fascinating. Everything. I would love to know what they meant by social identity.
Yeah.
But then you take frames words like that, social identity, and then when we're reading other documents, you'll see other references to them. It's the same like this transformation 2.0. I saw that in multiple documents, and each document gives a little bit more context about what it actually is, and when you piece it all together, you begin to understand what it is. So hopefully we'll find more stuff about social identity in the futuristic context.
Yeah, that'll give us some idea of what they mean by that phrase. Yeah, for sure.
IAI essay entries may be used in NIC discussions and publications as well as in internal NSA discussions on strategic planning. This sounds like the International Affairs Institute must know this. Surely they must know this. There must be some kind of agreement, which then makes you, I would love to actually find, can we find the rules and regulations for submitting to this contest? Is there anything in them? Is there anything in them that says that the NSA might use your futuristic essay for its strategic planning for 2020? I would be very fascinated to know if there was such a disclosure. I'm sure it's in very small fine print and very business language.
That would be very.
Essay content, some essay content may be supplied to our international partners or something like this, right?
Exactly.
Outreach sessions. And who is Toffler Associates? Why is this external company? Have we found out who they are yet?
Have we looked at Toffler Associates yet?
I've been typing in every question we ask. I've been typing into the chat and letting people come up with answers. Oh, I'm sure that's right. I can do a pop-out chat and then I can stop craning my neck trying to read this tiny writing.
Yeah.
Who is Toffler Associates? Toffler Associates are a strategic advisory, a future-focused strategic advisory firm. They're also involved in AI.
Yeah, see, that was what interested me. Even though it was back in 2004, I was thinking about the fact that now we know they use AI for these types of purposes. So that makes a lot of sense. And there are other companies as well that are into big data crunching and AI that I think seem to be some type of front. So it's something you run into a lot when you look at that topic.
like, can you please periodically link the pirate pad
Okay.
so that everybody can see it? Okay, so let's just back up for a minute.
Yeah.
We've got the NSA and AI. We have got that Fair Isaac Corporation credit data company, whatever they were, like big data credit rating company, who are involved in AI, with the managing director or whoever he was, director of that company, lecturing NSA staff, analysts on AI. Now we have Toffler Associates, strategic analysis, strategic analytics, also involved in AI. Like this is like a running theme here, because that is the connection between academic and corporate and intelligence agencies right there.
Absolutely.
And tech.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Toffler was an associate editor of Fortune magazine. In his early works, he focused on technology and its impact, which he termed information overload, which the NSA are obsessed with. In 1970, his book about the future, Future Shock. Oh, keep going, Paul, that's fascinating. Or even better, dump it all into the pirate pad. Can we please have someone who is like a Virgo go into the pirate pad and like neatly format it for us, please, so that everything's separated by subject?
I'm a Virgo, but I'm not sure about that.
It's the type of thing that I would do for kicks if I wasn't already streaming and reading documents and talking to you guys.
That is so the opposite of my personality. I'm so glad that there are some Virgos in this chat.
Now I know why I get on with Blake so well.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny's a Virgo too. Virgos are awesome. They're awesome in terms of organizational abilities, usually, unless they're 20 minutes late for their own live stream.
Yeah.
And which
my sister is a Virgo. She's the same way. So
I'll blame the tardiness on the Leo cusp.
You know, but she does the exact same thing. She'll be extremely organized and then also sometimes late.
Okay. Moving along from horoscope.
Moving on from astrology.
Back to 2020. I'm going from being late to being 3 years in advance. Okay. You two are invited to participate. $2 of your time for a session with Toffler Associates facilitator. So they've got people actually interviewing. So do they have a clearance? That would be the next question. They're interviewing NSA staff now.
Yeah.
Add that. The proceedings even include free food and a door prize. The way they sell this stuff to people.
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, to be honest.
Well, if you go to Alice Springs for 2 years, you can see the kangaroos and fly in a hot air balloon, apparently.
Yeah, I was actually wondering when I was looking at some of these new redactions and thinking about what you'd said about an entire sentence being redacted, I was wondering if they had one tiny sentence that it was about Pine Gap itself that they had redacted. That was the...
Possibly, but usually they only redact like nouns or like either proper names or perhaps program names or locations or titles or something like that. I mean, even usually there's actually all of the titles are unredacted in here. Somewhere the Intercept actually talked about what their rules for redaction in these documents were, and they talked about not exposing the names of any employee who was not publicly already known to be with NSA in that position. But an entire sentence really is an anomaly.
Yeah, it is.
It's definitely an anomaly to see an entire sentence.
And I wouldn't think that in a almost internal brochure like that they would be discussing the internal process of Pine Gap, so that I don't know, what on earth could they have even redacted in that document,
Yeah, the other thing too is that the paragraph, the classification for that paragraph was unclassified.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there had been anything in there that was sensitive, it wouldn't have made it past the SIDToday editors.
Yeah.
The actual NSA itself would have redacted it, or they would have changed the classification setting on that paragraph. Because everything that's in the SIDToday files is all going through the internal NSA classification authority, who are setting those classifications on each paragraph in each document.
Yeah.
So it can't have been classified, or the classification would have been upgraded. And it wasn't a single name or a single place or a single program. It was a full sentence.
Mm-hmm. Really odd.
I feel like we should have flagged that, actually. We should have flagged that document for at least to be added to the pirate pad as a mystery. If someone, Blake, can you add like literally a mystery section to the pirate pad? And then let's add that document. I'll just quickly find it. It's that Alice Springs one.
Yeah, it was, I think it was either the first or second one we looked at.
Jonathan Ellis, this is it here. I guess we should give him the link to it from the Intercept, would be the smarter way to go.
Yeah.
All right, where's my pop out chat? Okay. Technology 2020 event and tech panel engagement. They're sponsoring a Technology 2020 event that aims to bring together big thinkers across government, industry, and academia to discuss plausible. So they are basically doing everything they can to harvest ideas from every place that they can for them to then consider.
Absolutely.
So they're going after the students, they're going after their own employees, and now they're going after the entire tech industry.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're mentioning artificial intelligence, I see in that paragraph that we're looking at now.
And this, like,
technology?
this
Wow.
Signals Intelligence Directorate is sponsoring a Technology 2020 event. I've never heard of any technology event that is sponsored by the NSA.
Yeah.
Like, when do you ever hear, like, I mean, like, how many conference events do we have a year? Like dozens,
Well,
maybe 100.
You would know far more about that than I would. I've never been in the tech world, so I wouldn't know how many conferences or if they were sponsored by the NSA. But it really concerns me that in this paragraph right above the page break, it says biotechnology, along with all the rest of this, and nanotechnology. I think that's really interesting to see that listed, but much less to have it be an interest of the NSA. So.
To me, it couldn't be sponsored by the NSA or by the Signals Intelligence Directorate. They're telling their entire staff that it is, which means it's coming from the SID budget. So when I say it couldn't be sponsored, I don't mean they're not sponsoring it. I mean that it would have to be like a department of something. It would have to be undercover. It would have to be promoted as some other government initiative or through this think tank. So have we worked out who, did we work out who that think tank is? International Affairs Institute? We've got TOFLA, but who is the International Affairs Institute? Okay.
Thought leaders. The thought leaders will be asked to consider blah, blah, blah.
Results will contribute to the development of the technical report and drive strategic planning for national level decision making. And then they've got NSA's technology panel. So they actually have a panel of leaders in the private sector.
That is really interesting.
So they have the private sector and they have the tech sector, IT, and they have the students and they have their own employees and they have academia all covered. The fact that they do this doesn't particularly surprise me. The specific people that they work with, I find very interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, I really, it's good to see to understand some of the groups that they're associated with, for sure.
The social identity stuff is extremely fascinating. I mean, this is making me think, like, how old is the NSA again? Like, they will be able to retrospectively analyze their strategy documents from the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they will be able to, I mean, imagine how fascinating that would be. Imagine seeing like strategic document or whatever for 1980 that was written in 1964 and being able to sit there in 1981 and go through it.
Absolutely, that would be
Maybe
insane.
I'm a total geek, but that fascinates me. Like, I would love to do that.
It would be interesting to, from the current perspective or from the whatever perspective, looking back that many decades or years to see where you got it completely wrong. Or
where they got it wrong, where they got it right, and then what the scale is.
Yeah.
The projection versus actual, that would just be extremely fascinating. In 2021, they will be sitting there, or in 2020, or I mean, maybe they review this stuff every year. That would make sense if they get closer to it because they'll be revising. They have the office, the strategic planning office. So these guys' job will be to sit there and constantly review the strategy documents and to map their trajectory, is the word that they love to use, map their trajectory and see how close or far they are from what was projected.
Absolutely. And, and combining that with all of the issues we've covered earlier, where we're talking about them having a purely monetary or financial interest in this, and the control aspect of it, it's really horrifying. It's interesting and horrifying at the same time.
There's somewhere there where they're writing the justification for the effort and they almost let slip that
threat perspective, national security, blah, blah, blah.
As well as from national security threat.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is like secondary. It's like, and we better also put threat to national security. It's like, but it's not the primary. They want to know what is the future shape of science and technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the last key point here that I want to put in that is just that they had covered every single area.
Yeah, the extensiveness of the interaction between the intersection of all these different areas.
Engaging academic, students, staff, own staff, tech, IT, and private core.
Yeah, private sector.
How are we going on these dots? We can't be that far off now. thing's driving me crazy. I've got to get rid of it. This Zoom thing. Okay. Oh, we still have quite a few to go. Oh, the International Affairs Institute.
Oh, great. Awesome.
That's opportunistic. The International Affairs Institute has been reaching out to the workforce for over 30 years, presenting to the NSA workforce a variety of distinguished. Oh, so good of them to have a whole document telling us what it is. A variety of distinguished speakers from government, industry, and academia. The IAI is a member of NSA's Council of Learned Organizations.
That's fascinating, and that's really helpful.
That is significant. Council of Learned Organizations. Right. Awesome researchers. Like Jenny Lynn's like, yay! I'm like, yay as well. Like,
yeah, no, that was awesome to find that.
God, I can't type with my computer up here. It's driving me nuts. But
Yeah, I can't type anyway. Like when I try to type fast, I always make ridiculous and embarrassing typos. So
I type really quickly, but you would not know it when I have my arms like up in the air because I've got my laptop balanced up so far. It drives me crazy. So you're just gonna have to put up with the bad angle of like getting really familiar with the bottom of my chin, and I'm gonna just be able to actually type.
awesome.
What? Please add this to the part page. And we want that document link. That, I can't believe I just saw that like that. It was amazing. Right, what else have they got to say about this?
Yeah.
I should be note these.
That's watching needs to research this for us so we can talk about it.
I'm just going to stick it up here in case like there's an issue. Though the part pad is really good. The versioning in it is excellent. You can actually reverse back any change made by any person. You can see exactly what changes were made, and here it's like really good.
Awesome. One idea is if anybody watching wants to look this up, learned organizations, that to look it up in WikiLeaks just to see if anything comes up. I think that would be really interesting.
That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic idea because you can guarantee there will be stuff in there.
Yeah, I would just be curious to see, and some of these other names that we've looked at and the organizations we've looked at to kind of just throw those into WikiLeaks search and cross-reference it to see if anything interesting happens. I'm sorry, I keep drinking water constantly. My throat's just really dry today.
I've totally epically failed on. Getting any water, any drink.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Tim Watkin, love you, but you're not going to be in my Snowden analysis. Now I'm in the wrong document. No, this is the right document. Pursues its mission.
Yeah, the essay contest again is mentioned. Global scenarios for the year 2020 as the potential. So this is the same issue that they talked about in the other article. So it looks to me, the way they're having speakers from the organization come in and speak to the NSA, it seems to me that this organization is almost teaching them, you know, and again, it's like they're outsourcing work to this group to then come back to the NSA employees and tell them what's going on, you know? And so you have the outsourcing to all the individual parts, like the academia and the students and the private sector. And then it's all condensed into this one group, and then they go back to the NSA. Is that what you think? This is kind of condensing all of those different aspects and then bringing that to the NSA.
This suggests that the organization is also extremely well connected to the intelligence analysis intern program.
Okay,
So
interesting.
once again, this was like someone was just saying before about how they target students.
Yeah.
And this is right here is them targeting students. This
Yeah.
is the bridge between students, academic study, and working at the NSA, implemented by the NSA. And
Yeah.
it sits on the IAI board. Now, for someone from the Intelligence Analysis Intern Program to sit on the board, we need to go back and look. I'm caught between either not being able to type when it's up high and not being able to read when it's down low. It's driving me crazy.
No, I understand. No, this is getting really interesting though.
They grant membership to all IA intern new hires free of charge for their first year. This recruitment tool, so sure enough, it is a
Okay, yeah,
recruitment
it's good to see
tool.
that phrase.
This
And obviously,
recruitment tool, so they're actually openly calling
yeah,
the International Affairs Institute a recruitment tool.
that's really good to see the word at least, you know, right there, just openly stated. So
Exactly.
membership, what's a membership agreement offer? It says that they reached out to other organizations with a similar member agreement offer. I wonder what that is, or what that, like, what specifically that would be, what would be in that type of agreement.
So there's a lot in here, but this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to understand is this an NSA? I mean, it's clearly an NSA operation.
Yeah.
But is it a supposedly independent think tank?
Yeah.
That is actually an NSA operation, or is it in fact literally an NSA like an NSA division operation?
Yeah. If anybody can differentiate or find some more information on that, that would be awesome.
There must be I mean, if it's a public like facing thing, it would have to have a website.
Yeah.
So we must be able to find
like who the board, what the board is made of, or the executive directors, or the various people that would have to be associated with it. And I'm curious as to whether, as you say, it's an NSA actual open project, or whether it's like again a private NGO type of situation where things are a little bit more murky.
NSA private orgs. Oh, look, you helpful.
Yeah.
Look what this awesomely helpful person has found.
Thank you.
Governmentaddict.org. I like the sound of that. Oh, please, can you add that link to the pirate pad, please? That would make me very happy. Cacti juice.
That is a great find.
So the American Council of Learned Societies isn't it, Jenny? It's the Council of Learned Organizations, or CLO, as listed at this link by Cacti Juice.
Yeah.
Okay, so have we found out who actually runs the International Affairs Institute? It could be the Royal Institute of International Affairs. I don't know. That sounds like a UK version. look at the graphic. I added it already. Okay, do you mean in the pirate pad? Which I lost. Here we go. Where am I supposed to be looking here?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they
Oh
meant
my
that.
God, look at this. From the Toffler guy from Toffler Associates. The
Wow.
combination of knowledge, wealth, and force.
Wow, that is absolutely
That-
amazing.
that
Whoever
is-
added that, thank you.
That is amazing. That may as well be the slogan of the NSA.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be the key. That would be the key phrase I think you'd put in this article, or you'd writing about this.
The combination of knowledge, wealth, and force is described by Toffler as providing individuals or other entities with power.
And what it says a couple sentences down, wealth is another form of power, can be used as punishment. So they're talking about using wealth as punishment.
God.
Wow. Wow. Mind blowing.
Violence isn't as flexible as the other elements of power because you can't retract it.
To ensure compliance. The phrasing here is absolutely
Psychological capability can ensure compliance. They're talking about intimidation.
yeah.
So violence is useful for intimidation, but it's
threat,
not,
or
but
the
it's not
threat of violence.
flexible. But they don't see it as flexible, whereas violence through wealth or knowledge is flexible.
That is absolutely key to all of what we've been looking at.
No wonder he was contracted by the NSA. No wonder they think it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Absolutely.
But then they also think Thomas Friedman is the best thing since sliced bread. They have the Friedman Center even.
Yeah, I would also be really interested to know if anyone wants to add this under his name, is any other organizations he's been involved in, you know, any other groups or NGOs, private charity groups, or just universities, even just organizations that he's played a role in, I think would be interesting.
Okay, this badly needs formatting, this document. Badly.
I think we've got some really good information here at this point, though, as well. And thank you, Paul, for helping.
Thank you for everyone who's helping. Okay, so we can take that out and put that under the Toffler stuff. There was a link that went with this, the link to the actual document.
Would that be the PDF that was thrown into chat, or is that a different document? You know, this is a side note as we're just typing and organizing. Just speaking of cross-referencing these names in WikiLeaks, it would be another idea to do some streams like this, just researching WikiLeaks in various areas, various different leaks and stuff. I'm sure other people have done that, but it would be interesting.
This is a passage from a different document.
Okay.
Did somebody search the Snowden files on Toffler Associates and find this? It's very fascinating. Very fascinating. Yeah, we need some like numbering system or something. Like to me, this is going to get convoluted really fast. We need a way in the formatting to keep everything together and to understand what is something we haven't yet researched, what is something we are actively researching in this document, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And if you have if you're sharing a paragraph, then definitely paste the link with it that you're sourcing from and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, if you quote anything, please put the link after the quote. That's a file name. And this one needs a file name.
Yeah.
So we need to search and find what document that's from. At least a file. I mean, a file name, at least I can reference it back from the intercept, but either a file name or a link would be great. Okay, and this is the CLO stuff. So, okay, the mystery stuff I really want to keep like at the bottom of the entire document. Okay, so it's Toffler Associates, not Teflon, and I've put them in at line 31. So let's take that one out.
Disconnected, of course.
Yeah, always. I know why
Actually surprised it didn't happen earlier.
connection out. Okay, so back to the document.
Okay. Rand Corporation, of course.
All right, we already looked through that, the book sales and everything. Okay. So yeah, I'd just like to understand the provenance and the nature of the, well, we know the nature because we know it's a recruiting tool, but the provenance of it, how it came about, who is currently involved in it, whether it is, actually, let's have a quick look and just see if they have like an official website or something.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see who is on this.
IAI, this is them. G20 Insights.
Interesting. Now that's fascinating. So, and there are also there's non-profit facts.
It's a think tank. So sure enough, they're listed as a think tank.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
International Affairs Institute for World Peace.
Of course. No, they always name things that way where it's completely the opposite of what it actually is. Absolutely.
This is an Italian version. Founded in 1965. Non-profit organization, non-profit.
Yeah, that's what I run into all the time is that when you look at this type of connection, it's always going out to nonprofits, and they're so much shadier than people realize a lot of the time.
A non-profit organization, the IAI, is funded by individual and corporate members, public and private organizations, major international foundations. See, public organizations, would you think the National Security Agency?
No, exactly.
When you see that?
Yeah, no, and the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it says as well. But the thing is, like, there's no obligation for them to disclose that, is there? Is there any legal repercussion if they, I mean, there's nothing. There's no standard that we can say, oh, I'm the public, you're responsible to me, you have to tell me the truth about who you're involved with. Whereas the government, I mean, at least we can petition them, even if they lie to us, we can at least, you know, try to get some sort of accurate information from them. But it's bizarre to me that it's in Rome, because it sounded to me when we were reading
headquarters. I think this is the Italian branch.
Yeah.
Of,
because it definitely sounded like we were looking at something that was in America when we were reading about it before.
AI.
It might be worth it to click on that, the nonprofit facts. I think that would be, it might sum up some of the information we're probably looking for.
Oh, I've just written it backwards. International Affairs Institute. Does not exist.
Yeah, of course it doesn't. That's interesting. Wow. Oh, look, and there's that the reference to the British thing. I can see why they came up with that. Maybe.
Non-profit, non-governmental organizations. So they're freaking NGOs.
Yeah, exactly.
NGOs. So this, I wonder if this one says anything about GCHQ. Oh, it's Chatham House. Oh, Chatham House literally is the I mean, that's a well-known fact that Chatham House is the UK intelligence services, whose mission is to analyze and promote the understanding of major international and current affairs. So basically, analyze for the purpose of strategic documentation for the GCHQ and promote in terms of what they want everybody else to think about it.
Yeah.
It is the originator of the Chatham House rules. Oh, really?
Would this be connected to the NSA American version, or would they be
funny? This is
would they be just named similarly and have a similar function, or would they actually be like conjoined in some way? Or
my gut feeling is that all of these agencies from all of these countries have their own version of this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's.
Look at the Italian one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the British one, and the US clearly probably has a number of, maybe even dozens of, but certainly this one is a hugely significant one in terms of Snowden documents.
Yeah,
of their own.
Absolutely. Oh wait, non-top US non-US think tank by foreign policy, huh? Yeah, I'm wondering how much, for example, the NSA would use something like the British organization like this in order to also research in the way that we looked at in the documents earlier. That's a really fascinating find.
I need 3 minutes, but you can screenshot too, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that if anybody has any time right now, I think that it would be really useful to look at just try and search, avoid Google, go to like DuckDuckGo or something, and look up this organization. See if you can find any website at all for the American version of this, because I think it doesn't look like anything was coming up, but there was I think it was a New York Times link that was about nonprofits and nonprofit facts. And you can also look at that type of thing. If they have any political involvement, then you can see any donations. You can search for them on something like Open Secrets, and then also if you could look up this institute in WikiLeaks, that would be fantastic, and just see if anything comes up, and share it on the Pirate Pad if you can, and just link back to what you find, like where you find the link. Just copy paste that into the pad. Yeah, no, this is really interesting, seeing the way in which the NSA and then other intelligence groups that are in individual countries, using these NGOs in order to research just in a slightly distanced way from themselves. Yeah, and I think that most people don't understand, and I'm sure that the viewers right now do, but obviously after everything we've been talking about, but I think the mass public is very unaware of the role that NGOs play in this sort of situation. And I think they're also just unaware that there is such a murky kind of non-separation from government activities, NGO, and then aid activities and charities, and that they're so often not doing what they purport to be doing just going by their name or by what they say that they're doing. We just, there are a whole lot of activities that go on around these groups that are just not what the public would imagine. So, and I think, there are other issues that do get reported more often when it comes to government corruption, but I don't think that the whole NGO charity issue does get reported very much. So even academia has been known since the 50s and 60s to have sometimes been, connected to intelligence agency activities, but I don't know that anybody I don't know that the same can be said for the whole NGO connection. I just don't think it's been reported in the media very much. So it's really interesting to see these in the Snowden documents, these connections being confirmed and described in these really blatant terms. It's really interesting stuff. And thank you so much to everybody who has been researching with us and collaborating with us and, contributing to the Pirate Pad and just exploring this information that is just so important and that otherwise just does not get looked at. So it's really awesome. And if there's anything else you'd like to look up that you've run across in these documents that we haven't talked about, then let us know that as well. And if you find anything interesting, then please contribute that too. I think the stuff we talked about the other day about the UN is something that I think is really interesting when you then, in tonight's stream, you look at this issue coming up with these NGO and these private groups being so involved in NSA research. So because then not the same groups that we're looking at tonight, but similarly NGOs will then also be heavily involved with the UN. So it's a very tangled ball of yarn that once you pull one little tiny string on it, it's just the whole thing is just, it goes everywhere and there's not really an end to it. And it's very, it's all very, very interwoven with these different, with the UN or with the intelligence agencies or with academia and all these different groups. And that's why I think it'd be really useful to look up this particular NGO that seems to be popping up in different countries. I think it'd be really, really interesting to just try to find the US version, find a website, then find some people that they possibly list on that website, and then cross-reference their names in WikiLeaks or in just in general to see what they're involved in. So, because I think it's interesting to just look at the different areas of focus the NSA has. Like earlier when we were talking about the different drivers that they listed for future planning scenarios, they were talking about the environment and then social identity, as we mentioned. But then later they were also mentioning artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and all of these areas that are just, it's really, really fascinating. And it makes you wonder what, as Suzie was saying earlier, it's like, what do they think is going to happen in the next 15 or 20 years, at this stage, much less in 2004, looking forward to 2020. So. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, I was just encouraging people to cross-reference some of these names and groups in WikiLeaks, and then in general to see if we could find an American site, American version, because I think that would, because the American site doesn't seem to be coming up, and I thought that was really interesting. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure how to find it either.
Yeah.
I wonder if Institute of International Affairs, what did they press? Must have been more than just that. the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs at Brown University, Australian Institute of International Affairs,
Interesting.
Norwegian Institute of International Affairs, Singapore Institute of International Affairs, Japan Institute of International Affairs, Pakistan Institute. Okay, so this is just, I'll screen share this, hold on. Here it is, exactly as I was just theorizing.
Yeah.
Pakistan, Nigeria,
Yeah.
Finland, Poland, Germany, Sweden. International, here's another British think tank.
Monetary
So
affairs.
basically, the international affairs think tanks, which you hear quoted all the time in media, are a proxy, what did they call it? A recruitment tool.
Yeah.
A recruitment tool and a proxy force for the intelligence services.
Absolutely.
School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University. It's really interesting because you hear about people going to university and studying international affairs. You don't put two and two together and think that they're studying like to be a spy.
No,
But-
well, actually, that I think that's something I have heard of, and that's something that I've heard of quite a bit. Is that there are a couple of degrees like that that are very much basically recruitment routes, and that the professors in those.
I heard about linguistics, you know, where they're studying languages or whatever else.
Yeah. And then international affairs is another one, and then a lot of the professors will be CIA agents, and I mean, not saying all of them, but a lot of them will be actively.
Columbia University. Wow. It's funny, you know, like I was just thinking this before, I'm like, I must sound like so green or naive being like, oh, I didn't know this, but I don't think most of the public knows it. I think this is literally the knowledge that is hidden from people. It's hidden under the like innocuous title and the
Exactly.
like
That's what I'm trying to.
essay competition, you know. How many times, like, I think I'm starting to think back to like high school, and like someone would come around to the school and be like, we're doing an essay competition. Now I'm just looking at it and going, holy crap, was that them like farming ideas from us for the government?
Could have been. I guess it depends on the subject. If that was, depends on whether that was more likely or not. But yeah, absolutely. And you know, and obviously then it becomes as well, like when you have the essays, you can also use that as they put it, a recruitment tool, because you can look at the kids that look like they may be leaning in the direction that you want them to, or that would be promising for your purposes. So
look at this. Where was it? South Africa.
Yeah.
Bangladesh. Like it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like we were talking about the innocuous phrasing for the titles, and that's what I was trying to say earlier about NGOs in general, is that people don't understand because of the titles. When they say Institute for World Peace, they actually, like, the mass public thinks that actually is a charity for world peace. Like that's just the takeaway, and they don't understand that there is so often the exact opposite intent with these groups.
Charitable organization.
Yeah, exactly. So they're getting a tax break as well, right?
But they're a registered corporation. Well, I guess that's what whatever it is. Charitable organization. Filing requirement, not required to file. Is that why they're registered?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm interested in, is how these groups, these NGOs and charities are used to, and I don't know, to kind of hide things that they don't have to be accountable for governmentally. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. But when I've heard about like people being concerned about charities and NGOs, it's always been concerned about like civilians setting up and using. I've never heard of it in the context of the NSA.
Yeah, and proving it, not just like being concerned about it, but having it openly stated, you know. The only other that, you know,
So
there
don't know.
Yeah.
See, this is the exact wording that is used in the documents, International Affairs Institute.
Yeah.
We don't know if these guys are the ones referred to in the NSA documents, though we should add that in just to like into the pirate pad. But this is it's a pattern.
Yeah.
Every country in the world has an International Affairs Institute that are all interested in the same topics. So like the Italy one we first saw to the Bangladesh one that was just listed, like, and everything in between. The NSA calls the International Affairs Institute a recruiting tool. That has a newsworthy factor of about 11 out of 10.
Yeah, and I want to know, this is why I'm irritated that there isn't a US website for this group, unless this is the right. I know it's not the actual website, it's the nonprofit fact site, but I'm saying that it irritates me that there isn't a website that is openly the correct group for the US, because it would be so fascinating to see what the people or just the organization itself is involved with outside of the NSA. Like, I want to be able to connect that organization and anybody who's on the site to what other groups and efforts they're involved with, you know, and even check, like, you can check open secrets to see if it's involved.
Oh, God, look at this.
Political funding.
Randomly, they're showing advertising this journalist, Japanese journalist, television interviewer with a background in international politics.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking a background in international politics. Like, no, I'm not accusing this individual of being a spy,
Yeah.
but this is like, it's starting to make you think, like, how many people in media are like graduates of the International Affairs Institute? How many people in, you know, God knows what careers? Incredible.
Absolutely.
International Affairs Institute.
That would also be interesting, considering the discussion of the UN last time. It would be interesting to see if this has any sort of tie to the UN, you know, and that's why we need the website. We need to be able to check and search what exactly this group is tied to outside of the NSA. So.
Wow. Okay, and that was it for the talk. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, now where are we up to before, since we jumped ahead?
Yeah.
Well, should we leave it there for tonight? I think we're already over 2 hours.
Oh, are we?
2.5 hours. It's so easy to keep going on this stuff. Like, when I was writing up the first few batches, I literally just like power read documents for the entire day and night. It's really easy to just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Absolutely.
But I do think I think that's a really good point to leave it off.
Yeah.
To leave that. So I will go through and I'll write up the rest of the Decipher You stuff. And I know you're working on you'll have an epic article for Disability and Media. Like, after all this stuff, you have like so many findings.
Yeah, I may have to write one that's like today and the last stream, and then like cut off there and like publish that, and then have another one for any future information, just because I don't think people are going to be willing to read more than just today and last stream. But
the other option is that you do just like 300 words about each finding and do like a never-ending series of articles.
Yeah.
You're definitely not going to be short on content.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty cool to have the sourcing and stuff done already.
I'd like to have a little bit of a summary of each subject altogether, because they came from this one source, which is the stream, and then have, you know, each subject that needs to be investigated by itself, then have little articles, smaller articles, but about one specific topic from this. So it'll be a project going forward for sure.
Cool. Okay, so goals for me is to add in the new stuff into the Decipher You article, and I'm going to try and do a Virgo job on formatting that pirate pad and making it really clear what each subsection is for and what should go where. You guys, we should just jump in chat for a second, because you guys have been amazing tonight. It makes like a huge difference having you guys here and helping us out and stuff.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's really truly fun to collaborate with other people researching and interacting with you with this type of material. To just see what other people can find is really fun.
Yeah, Paul, IAI and Toffler, interesting to search them as a string, but they are from separate organizations and separate, like Toffler is doing the questioning, but IAI, they're not questioning IAI. IAI is holding the events and the essay competitions and stuff like this. But yeah, I find it remarkable that students' essay competitions could be like advising, you know, or impacting the NSA strategic plans. It's just next level.
And you know what we also need before we end this, I'd like to ask if anybody has graphic design skills. It would be really great to have a chart or some sort of visual to show these connections that we've looked at, especially tonight, where you have academia students and all of these different sectors affected by this just one group, and then some other graphics for what we've looked at previously would be great too. But
I would really like to take a minute to talk about that too, because you're right, we need some infographics, and I thought I'd talk to Somerset Bean, who's a really amazing graphic designer. He does a lot of the WikiLeaks graphics, specifically the infographics. I thought I'd talk to him because there's a few things I'd like. I would like each finding to have its own graphic of just in one sentence what the impact is, and that the reference is the Snowden documents. And to make them, maybe I'll talk to our designer and see if I could get him to do something. Somehow I'll work it out. Or if you guys have the skills, please let me know, because it'd be really helpful. But just like a series of images to get across to people, A, that we're doing this, B, the particulars of what we're doing, and C, what we've found, these awesome findings. The second thing I wanted to do is I would like to cut each of these streams into segments that relate to a single finding, and then upload them to my channel with like a title and description just about that one finding. Because like several times we've said, each finding is of such epic proportions and epic significance that it really deserves to have, you know, its own video segment and its own associated graphic that we can push out around social media to raise some awareness about this.
Definitely.
And at least put them on the hashtag, so that everybody who looks at the hashtag in the future is going to see, oh my god, look at this, oh my god, look at that, wow, this is what we found. That's kind of like first steps for it. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your long form article, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to write for sure. It'll be very, very long, but it'll be very interesting.
Long is good. I've written some kind of ridiculously long things myself. Okay, cool. Guys, thank you. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone who contributed. You're awesome. So.
Oh, totally. Thank you so much. We will see you in another few days. Once we recover from this one, we'll keep on going through these files and find the hidden gems, or the gems hidden in plain sight.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay. Good night, you guys.
Bye.
You're so welcome. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for being here. See you later. Oh, thank you, Cacti. Thank you. That stuff that you were posting in before is so helpful.
Yeah.
That was really helpful. And I love seeing like new faces show up and contribute information and go through this with us. It's really, really, really cool of you to take the time to do that. Night. Thank you, guys.
Bye.